Hey guys, Cohh here. I just wrapped up the main story of the new Wolfenstein. It's called Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it. So, when I came into Wolfenstein, I had played the Old Blood and New Order, the two previous reboots, and I loved them. They were a lot of fun. The game has always been kind of an over-the-top kind of exaggeration of, kind of American heroism, in the stereotypical sense. And I've always liked that about it. I think it's a lot of fun to play through, and I had a good time in the old games. When I started playing this game, I wasn't expecting a huge step forward. I was expecting more of the same. I was expecting to have a good time. I was expecting some pretty good characters. I was expecting some fun scenes, and I was expecting the kind of interesting sci-fi futuristic of, a Nazi-conquered world, which they always do interesting things with machines and like the kind of occult aspect. So I came in not expecting a huge amount. However, on most regards, I was blown away by this game. The characters were at first kind of almost too larger than life, but soon kind of settled in and really started working together. The setting was phenomenal, especially what they've done to the sub. Every square inch of it is just lore and lived in. It looks fantastic. The voice acting, absolute top notch. I was baffled at the pacing. In fact, there's a few scenes out of this game that I kid you not, you could have pulled right out of a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like with the directing, the pacing, the action, the music, the dialogue. It was extremely awesome. And here's another thing I'm going to say about this game, without spoiling it. The first hour of this game has multiple scenes that I would say are some of the most shocking in gaming. In fact, there are two scenes that one of them, I by reflex, physically pulled the camera out of the way. And if you watch the playthrough, you'll see me do this. The event occurs, a character starts to do something, and I physically turn the camera away from what's going on because I was insulted and affected on like a level that I didn't even want to see what it was. Like it was that bad. And then another scene, just close to that one, where you're it's a scene that's almost worse than torture. I'm used in games to having my character strapped down and tortured and horrible things happen to them. It's a completely other thing when animals are involved. And again, not to spoil it too much, but most of you know what I'm talking about if you see my playthrough. And yeah, that was visceral, I think is a good word for that. And there's more scenes like that later. Also, this game has two of some of the most violent expectations to reality switches that I've ever seen. One of them felt like I got kicked in the gut. And you'll see it again if you watch my playthrough. I get super hyped for this thing that's about to happen, and I'm totally in, and I'm plugged in, and then something happens, and I'm just like, for about 2 minutes straight, I'm just sitting there, just like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. Again, the fact that a game can make you feel that way is just, yeah, it's awesome. Also, another thing that blew me away about this game was the music. I'm a huge fan of Mick Gordon. I actually
have another crack at the shooting range.
I somehow missed that he was doing the music for this game, but I have to say, multiple times during this playthrough, as you will see, I am playing the game, and I just stop playing and go, this music is awesome. Or I just stop playing and go, yeah, this is good. Like the music, I'm going to be buying this OST the second I can, just like I did with the Doom one. And yeah, it was really good. Okay, so I do have one thing about this game, though. And it's going to seem a little bit small, but I have to admit, I feel the same way about this game as I do BioShock Infinite, where I just had an incredible playthrough. I experienced a huge amount of different things. It was definitely one of the better playthroughs of a first-person story-based shooter I've ever done. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I wish it had been longer. I feel like a few parts of it were rushed, especially towards the end. I feel like there could have been some extra levels in multiple places. And another thing that absolutely bothers the hell out of me is this is one of those games that pulls the little subtle things with the person playing it, where you're never quite sure if what you're doing is real or not. And then worse, this is a little bit spoilery, but worse, there's this specific scene later in the game where your character starts wondering if even the confirmed reality is real. And that bugs me a little bit in games. Because I have to say that it's one thing to kind of play with the perspective of the character's reality. It's another thing to make him feel like nothing is real. And there was definitely a good portion of this game when I was convinced that nothing was real. And I still don't know if it was. So it's a kind of thing where it's okay to do that, don't get me wrong. But as a personal, like, my preference thing, it becomes harder to get attached to a game if you're questioning if what you're doing is even happening. And I feel like I would have had a little bit more impact from some of the scenes if that scene that I was talking about had not happened. Which was, and again, maybe I was looking too much into it. I know some other people picked up on it because we had a little discussion in chat when it happened. But that was an interesting decision for them to make in the game, and it was impactful, at least for me. So it wasn't a huge thing. Maybe they'll plug into that later. In fact, I really hope maybe we'll see a DLC of the scene that I'm talking about, because that would be awesome. But yeah. So anyway, that's about it. I don't want this to be too long. So overall, fantastic experience. I really enjoyed it. I think if you like the previous Wolfensteins, you'll like this one. I think if you like story-based first-person shooters, that you'll really like this game. Keep in mind, there's a lot of violence in this game. There is racism in this game. There is sexism in this game. This is the definition of an adult game. But at the same time, it is probably my favorite in the Wolfenstein series. I think I felt more in this Wolfenstein than the previous ones, and the previous ones were great. So yeah, that really sums it up for this. If you do choose to play it, I hope you enjoy it. If you watch it on my YouTube, thank you for that. And regardless, make sure to drop by the channel and say hi sometime. Thanks, YouTube, and see you later.